Okay, this next video clip is going over just some of the bones that we can see on the skull and head. And so on this color model that we have in the lab, you can see the frontal bone on this model. You can see the nasal bones. There's actually two bones that make up that. Coming down, we're going to have this brow here. This is the maxilla. And there's two bones in a child where they fuse as an adult, so this maxilla is all one bone for us. From the front here, we also see the zygomatic, the blue bone here, and then so that makes up the lateral aspect of the orbit of the eye. The maxilla is going to make up this inferior aspect. Now the green color here that we can see on the sides here, that's going to be the lacrimal. The red back here is the ethmoid. So the lacrimal makes up the medial border of the eye socket. Ethmoid bone is in there as well. The posterior aspect, this yellow color, is going to be your sphenoid bone, and we can change a couple different views to kind of see that a little bit better. So looking from a lateral shot, so here's that frontal, here's those nasal bones again, the maxilla. You can see a little bit better view of that lacrimal bone, just a glimpse of the ethmoid there. You see the zygomatic, and we see that zygomatic arch as it attaches onto the temporal bone. So we have temporal, we have the zygomatic arch, or the zygomatic process. Then we're going to have the styloid process here on the temporal bone, and then the mastoid process that are on this temporal bone that we can see from the side. One other one that we can see here, we saw the sphenoid from the front. So this little glimmer right here is this lateral aspect of the sphenoid. And I'm going to just turn to the side. So here's that sphenoid again, the posterior aspect of the orbit of the eye. And I'm just going to zoom forward just for a second, so that we can see that sphenoid bone as it goes through the inner portion of the skull, and this bone makes that big butterfly that we talked about. And then one of the landmarks is right here, the sella turcica, where the pituitary gland sits. So let's go back to that lateral shot. So from that lateral shot, we have the temporal bone, the styloid process, the mastoid process, and then the sphenoid bone here, and then the large bone here. We'll have one on this side and one on the other. This is the parietal. We turn to the posterior view. So parietal here, left parietal, right parietal, and then we're going to have that occipital bone here on the back side. So a reminder, there's 8 cranial bones and 14 facials. So just going through those again fairly quickly. Starting with the cranial bones, we're going to have a frontal bone, that's 1. We'll have the parietal left and the parietal right, that's 2 and 3. We'll have the temporal bone left and right, that's going to be 4 and 5. We'll have the sphenoid bone, which is a cranial bone, and then we'll have the occipital bone here, that's number 7. And then the last cranial bone will be this ethmoid. So we can see part of it here. So this is the flat part, and then if we zoom back to that anterior view, we'll have a little bit of the ethmoid here, and that also makes this the separation of the nasal cavity here, where we have the perpendicular plate of that ethmoid. Okay, so frontal, 2 parietal, and occipital, 2 temporal, sphenoid, and we're going to have the ethmoid bones there. So those are the cranial bones. Now let's go through the sutures. So we have the suture here between the frontal and the parietal bones. This one here is your frontal or coronal suture. We have another suture right here between the temporal bone and the parietal. This one's called the squamous suture. On the back side here, between the occipital and the parietal lobes here, we're going to have the lambdoid suture. And then what we see is this suture running right down the middle, separating that left and right parietal, and that is the sagittal suture. Okay, so 8 cranial bones, 4 sutures for the skull, and then we'll do one more video here to go over the facial bones. Just another view to see some of the bones here. So again, part of the sphenoid, the maxilla. We have the temporal here, the occipital. One of the landmarks of the occipital bone here is the large opening called the foramen magnum that the spinal cord will come through. You can see the styloid process, the mastoid processes here. And so then we'll just do one more video on the facial bones so that the video is not too long. Okay. All right. So check out the next video.